Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany Bradley, and this is Art Off Pause. We're here today with Kevin Seaman, who is a drag performer and community organizer in California. Disclosure, Kevin has been a consulting client of mine, but we also have a decade-plus history of working together in different arts endeavors, I'll say.
It's true.
It's true, yes. So if you've been here before, you know, chat is on the side, Q&A is on the bottom, so feel free to ask us questions. If you're on YouTube, hey YouTube, you can't ask questions, but we still love you. And we'll have a short discussion with Kevin, and then we'll take your questions. So I am going to kick it off. Did I miss anything? Nope. I will kick it off and introduce Kevin. So I'm going to make myself big and you little, Kevin, and then we'll switch. Oh, no, I did the opposite.
Now I'm big.
Okay. Kevin Seaman / LOL McFiercen is an interdisciplinary performance artist and cultural worker exploring queer identity and drag culture at the intersection of gender and sexuality. They received the 2017 Americans for the Arts Emerging Leader Award and were named one of SF Weekly's 16 Artists to Watch in 2016 and participated in the inaugural APAP Leadership Fellows Program. Kevin / LOL is at home in nightlife venues, theaters, and large-scale institutions. Additionally, Kevin / LOL has led sessions focused on queer arts and community issues for APAP NYC, Grantmakers in the Arts, Americans for the Arts, National Performance Network's annual conference, and Stockholm's Proud Performing Arts Festival. They recently premiered their first evening-length solo piece, Masculinity, while in residence at Brava Theatre Center in San Francisco, and continue to uplift feminist ideals within gay and queer masculine communities. And that's an abbreviated bio, so there you go. So I'm also going to read just a tiny bit of Susan Sontag to set up the conversation. So this is a super famous essay if you think art history is famous, called Notes on Camp.
And we all do.
It was published in 1964, and it's Sontag's thoughts on camp as a sensibility. So she writes, "A sensibility, as distinct from an idea, is one of the hardest things to talk about, but there are special reasons why camp in particular has never been discussed. It is not a natural mode of sensibility, if there be any such. Indeed, the essence of camp is its love of the unnatural, of artifice and exaggeration. And camp is esoteric, something of a private code, a badge of identity, even among small urban cliques." So that may or may not be true. Kevin / LOL, I'll hand it over to you. You can tell us about the work you were doing before COVID and how you're rethinking things or restructuring.
Thank you, Tiffany, for the wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here and with your viewers. Thank you for having me. So yeah, as Tiffany said, I'm an interdisciplinary artist. I'm going to take these off because I'm just getting a lot of glare back from the lights. But I'm an interdisciplinary artist, drag queen, and cultural worker based in San Francisco. And like, I thought I got my pipe and drape set up, but it just is like not quite wide enough.
The angle.
I'll split the difference. How about that?
Yeah, looks great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So before COVID was happening, I had just debuted my solo show, #FeMasculine. It's a 70-minute interdisciplinary cabaret solo performance where I am talking the audience through my own experiences with gender and sexuality, kind of as an allegory for processes that many gay men go through. So the first stage of the show is really thinking about indoctrination into toxic masculinity that all boys experience just by being in contemporary society and getting images and reinforcement from toxic masculine ideals. The second component of the show really deals with an eroticization of toxic masculinity, and thinking about hypermasculine sexual male communities. Then we flip around and we think about queering the idea of toxic masculinity and the drag component, where I transform into my drag persona, LOL McFiercen, and the show really ends off with what happens after toxic masculinity. And where do we go to after that? So that show I had just debuted. I had printed up a bunch of postcards and taken them to the Association for Performing Arts Professionals annual conference, and was getting ready to do a conference circuit to try to promote touring the show. But now that COVID's happened, theaters are closed, these large conferences aren't going to be happening. And so I've really been thinking about how do I take this performance that's already really media infused and transform it into a media piece. So rather than seeing it as a live performance, thinking of it as an hour-ish long video, and really thinking about transforming it into something where we can just dive deeper into the ideas that we bring out around internet anonymity and being able to instantaneously transform. So there's a lot of really great things I'm excited about for shifting that show and turning it into a video piece. But it's also, we've been working on, I've been working with like a 15-person ensemble on the show over the last 3 years. So we're really excited to get it up and kind of get it going. And now it's just needing to totally shift gears and change.
Hey, Kevin.
So yeah.
How do you define toxic masculinity?
Great question, Tiffany. Thank you for asking. For those that don't know, the idea of toxic masculinity is not that all masculinity is toxic, not whatsoever. Toxic masculinity is the idea that there are certain traits and behaviors that men are taught that they have to conform to in order to be a real man. And a lot of these behaviors or traits are really hurtful to the man that's inhabiting them and to other people that are experiencing those behaviors or traits. So one of those things might be that, real men don't cry, or that guys are tough and they don't share their emotions. And ultimately, by a person not being able to express their feelings, they're creating a boundary with the world where they're being more isolated because they're not connecting and finding emotional support. So that's just one trait of toxic masculinity that I think is very easy to see how that's hurtful to both the person that's perpetuating the behavior, but then also to other people that are involved.
Thank you. And then LOL McFiercen, for viewers who are not familiar with her, can you talk about how that character came to be and the intersection of that character and sort of internet culture?
Yeah, absolutely. So LOL McFiercen is my drag persona. She turned 7 in March, which is ridiculous to think about. And she is very rooted in bright, fun, poppy, girlish behaviors. Think like Lisa Frank meets like Harajuku culture meets total camp and ridiculousness. So a lot of really big hair, really bright, big outfits. And I think really embracing the femininity that I was denied as a younger boy, told that I was not supposed to be these things, to be able to indulge in them as an adult and just go completely over the top with it, allowed me to really understand my own femininity a little bit better in a way that now I think after processing it for so many years, I've actually pulled back from drag a lot just because I'm feeling a lot more comfortable in my own body. But also just the name LOL McFiercen is a reference both to Laughing Out Loud, the internet acronym, but also to 90s internet model Elle McFiercen, kind of jamming those two things together. So LOL will perform a lot of contemporary pop songs, but then also will take inspiration from YouTube and from like YouTube videos or just different internet memes. The most recent video I did was for the Studs Drag Alive, which is a weekly drag show that happens every Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. Highly recommend checking it out if you are in need of some camp and some queer community. It's a really, really fun drag show, and I will send the link out somehow. Yeah. I don't know what to do.
Yes, you'll give me the and I'll post it on the internet.
Yes. So that video that I just created is really thinking about isolation and just how loopy everybody is getting. It's called You and You, which is a Planning to Rock song. They are a Berlin-based artist and composer. And the video is just me talking to different versions of me through Zoom aesthetics.
I watched it this morning. It's a jam. So guys, we're at 10 minutes. So if people have questions, please chat somehow, some way. But I will throw you a question that I think
please.
Touches on, I'll reframe us, touches on a lot of the strengths that you have, which is, how are you thinking about toxic masculinity and internet culture now that we're all forced onto screens and we don't have the offline forms of community that might be softer or have different cues?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think it's a really difficult and nuanced conversation to have digitally. But actually right at the start of COVID lockdown in San Francisco, we got the order on March 16th at midnight that everything started. And unrelated, I had planned the first meeting of the Queer Masculinities discussion group to happen in person at the Pacific Felt Factory, where I am in the Mission in San Francisco. And then as we were getting ready for that event, I was like, oh, I should make this so that people can do this online because some people might not want to come. And I was like, actually, this needs to all be online because nobody should be here. So that was very early on in mid-March. But that group's actually been meeting weekly and bi-weekly since then. So that group is really just meant to have an open forum for people of all genders and all sexualities to come and discuss different types of masculinity and just kind of whatever's on their mind. It's the folks that I'm really targeting for that space are cis gay men, cisgender gay men, because I feel like there are less places where I feel like they can be curious or to be open about some questions they might have. And so I'm really wanting to invite a space that feels open, that feels free, that feels curious. We have like a set of community agreements that everyone buys into. We'll usually have co-facilitators. K.O. Roberts, that was on your show, I think last week, was our co-facilitator last week. It was really fantastic to have them on. We've been friends for a while. And it's great to be able to continue that conversation and have a place where people can come together digitally via Zoom. I feel like that's all my life now is happening on these video calls. But continuing that work in that way.
Great. And so one thing that I noticed in your bio, which I've never thought about till I read your bio, even though I've known you for many, many years, was the part about uplifting feminist ideals. And how is that core to your work? And how do you feel like as an artist, you're able to dig into that?
Yeah, to me, like feminism is all about equality. It's about balance. It's about promoting things. And so for me, I really want to spread the message to more men that feminism includes you. I think a lot of men get confused or turned off when they see things like stop men or these broad statements, or the future is female, which obviously we think about the shifts that need to happen in our society from where we've been to, I mean, at least where I want to go to, where many people want to go to. And especially right now, if you look at a lot of countries that have high success rates at flattening the curve, they've been women-led countries. And so it's about, I think, allowing men to have the sensation of like, oh, yes, backing up may cause some discomfort, and like, let's find room to talk about that discomfort so that we can push more for an equal and feminist agenda.
Amazing. So that lines up the future perfectly, whether the future is female or COVID-filled or not. So it sounds like you've made a pretty, I won't say easy, but a intentional shift to digital work, both in your community organizing and in your art. And that's something you're primed to do.
Hold on a second. Go ahead, keep talking. Keep talking. I'm just going to turn this light off. It got a lot brighter in my studio. Okay.
What do you want for the future, either in your art, your community, or the world at large?
Well, I want a lot, Tiffany. There's a lot I want from the future. I will say that I'm really interested to see how our society reacts to the situation that we're in. I feel like right now is a time that the ice is breaking, things are shifting a lot, and I feel like the things that are really bubbling up to the surface are the existing inequities. So thinking about racial inequities, about how people are being policed for shelter in place, thinking about murders that are still happening to Black folks, thinking about inequities in scale and in payment, and frontline workers versus people that are staying home being bored and they're angry about that, or they're protesting that they can't go and do these things, or they have to wear a mask. So really thinking about these inequities in society and how we can utilize our roles as artists, as culture bearers, to shift that, to provide opportunity for more people to understand that feminism is for everybody, that equity is for everyone, that white supremacy hurts white people, that toxic masculinity hurts men. I feel like people are so used to the toxicity they were raised into, or that they fell into, or that they were attracted to for whatever reason, that we have to give people alternatives. And so I'm really excited to think about healthy masculinities, and excited to think about community connectivity, and excited to think about mutual aid in different ways. I'm also a board member for the Emerging Arts Professionals, San Francisco Bay Area. It's a really great organization here in the Bay Area, and they are doing a conference or an event in June called Emergence that we're really looking to think about, like, well, what changes do we actually need in our society, and specifically in the arts nonprofit world. That's really the area that I'm a consultant. I'm a nonprofit worker. I used to be a grant writer and worked with a lot of nonprofits. So I think we're really seeing a lot of, at least I'm thinking a lot more deeply about foundation and funders' roles in community, not just as monetary funders, but as conveners and as connectors, and just really thinking about how we are making sure that the most vulnerable people in our communities are getting the support they need.
And talk a little bit more about mutual aid, because we talked behind the scenes a little bit about that, but how are you seeing, as a community organizer who also has a foot in the philanthropic world, how are you seeing the different responses or practices around supporting folks?
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing that's been really interesting is that some of the first monetary supports for communities, and specifically for queer communities, have been mutual aid groups. So there's the San Francisco Queer Nightlife Fund that came out. There's a safety net services. There's an artist support services. All these different ones that were started not by large funders with big access to money, by individual donors. Large high net worth individual donors. They were started by these little mini campaigns where people were giving 10 or 20 bucks so that they can be redistributed to folks that can no longer earn an income. You think about just the idea of nightlife, like nightlife does exist now, but not in the same way. And a lot of people that I know, drag queens or DJs or go-go dancers, they're essentially out of work. And then simultaneously, a lot of these folks also, because you can't live your entire life on those gigs, especially in San Francisco, you need to have another job. And so a lot of these folks are falling between the cracks for the CARES Act that supports the contract workers instead of employee people. But when you have a hybrid job, you don't really fit into either, which means you're kind of ineligible for anything. So that's where I feel like these mutual aids are really picking up the slack for where our society is failing.
Yes to all of the above. And how do you, as a Bay Area person, and we should note, our previous guest, Betty Yu, talked a lot about gentrification, but we should also say that the Bay Area is another part of the country that has traditionally been super hospitable to artists, but now has become unaffordable based on a lot of factors. do you see San Francisco and the environs being able to keep having a robust arts community now that some of the jobs that may have supported artists in hospitality or in service may be reduced right now, or maybe non-existent, but maybe reduced in the future, as well as the cost of living being so high?
I feel like this is just another hurdle in a long set of challenges that artists around the world have faced, but specifically here in San Francisco, you know, we're coming from a place that in the 90s and before, you used to be able to like move, you're like, I'm gonna move to San Francisco with a tube of chapstick and like $5 in my pocket. And you could couch surf for a while and find a job and make things work. And that reality has completely shifted over the last, I'd say, like 20 years. And so now we're already in a place that we are fighting an uphill battle. We are pushing that rock up the hill, and that, you know, like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park says, like, nature finds a way, and like artists find a way. That nothing will stop culture.
Killer dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, that's the thing, that like, you can't stop artists, you can't stop creativity, you can't stop culture. You can try, but it's only going to make it stronger and more vibrant because of that need for it to exist. And so in that way, I think, you know, things are really quiet for the first, I would say, few weeks of COVID. But now, like, everybody's got an online drag show, everybody's got a dance party. Like, there's so much culture that's happening, and it's just shifting the way in which it's being disseminated and people are participating. I went to a Drag Alive, and I ended up spending like $100 on different performances because I wasn't like giving cash to people. I was just typing in tips for people and appreciating them. So in that way, it's so great to see that those broadcasts get like 400 or 500 people coming in, and they actively are suggesting you to pay the cover fee, to tip the host, to tip the producer, to tip the performers, to tip the DJs, to support not just a community of performers, but also the Stud Bar, which is a historic site for queer culture in San Francisco.
So it's really like moving the nightlife to these online platforms.
Absolutely. And I think really making sure that there's money going into the Stud, which is closed right now and can't operate, so that eventually when it can reopen, it can still be there. I think that's a danger we're seeing now, that so many cultural institutions that can't make money or that have just had their income completely shifted, we're worried about, will they still be there anymore when places were already closing their doors?
Absolutely. So any last thoughts? So audience, if you have questions, holler. If not, we'll take last thoughts or advocacies for the future of 2020.
I'm pretty sure this whole thing has been advocacies, but whatever.
Any advocacies you have not covered yet?
I think we've talked a lot about like my social practice and politics, but thinking, I think, specifically about my work in and of itself, that I am really interested, and I think now is the perfect time of thinking of shifting again away from more performance-based things and more into media-based things. As a performer that's aging and my life is continuing to change, I've really been thinking about not leaving a performance field, but just continuing to widen a window into more of the art world and into media worlds. And so I think it's also an excellent time to go back to school. I have not received my master's degree, and I'm really interested in doing that. Just as a means of shaking it up and trying something new, because now's the time.
It's a time. So I have a question for the people on the internet who are thinking about an MFA program or a grad program. You've obviously had a long and successful career as an arts administrator and as a performer. What do you think the value of study or returning to school is in this moment? Because I might look at you and be like, what can grad school teach Kevin that you don't already know. So what do you see as the value of scholarship in this moment?
Yeah, I think when I was first starting the Association of Performing Arts Professionals Leadership Fellows Program, APAP thing, whatever, the person in charge of that, Ken Foster, I was talking to him about possibly going back to grad school, and he was like, Kevin, you already have the experience, you have the connections, you don't need to do that. But I think for me, what I've realized is that it's really difficult to be in an artistic place while I'm simultaneously managing community issues, while I'm simultaneously managing consulting issues, while I'm doing these other things. And so for me, I'm really seeing graduate school as a time to focus on my artwork in a way that I haven't been able to do since my undergrad in theater that ended in 2004. To have deep time to go into my practice, to intentionally learn new skills, to build out myself as a better artist. I think it's difficult to think about investing money in something that you might not get any return out of. But for me, I think it's really about the connectivity to new communities. It's about learning new skills and just giving myself a couple of years to dive deeper back into my work and to invest in myself as an artist. It's something that I've also been like, no, I don't need that, or I can't afford it, or I can't do it. And it's something that I want to prove to myself that I can do, because I know that I can.
Yeah. Well, I know you can do anything. On that note, I think we'll end for today. Thank you to the internet. Thank you, internet friends, for coming.
Thank you, internet friends.
I will also say, in the vein of Kevin's discussion of mutual aid and philanthropy, our next guest will be next week, which is Monday the 18th. Her name is Bimbola Akinbola, and she is a scholar who started her own Instagram, we would call it micro-granting, because that's the way we were trained as arts administrators, but her own COVID relief fund that is very much community organized. So it will be great to hear her ideas on philanthropy. And Kevin is on Twitch. We'll post the link. And thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Oh, wait, one more thing I forgot to mention. May I?
Yeah, go for it.
On Thursday, I am going to be hosting a screening of my show, #FeMasculine, that you can find on Facebook if you just type in FeMasculine, FeMasculine, FeMasculine. You can find that, or if you go to Brava's website at brava.org, we're going to be doing a screening and a question and answer following that on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
Yes. And is there a place to watch the replay if we can't see it live?
It's private now. It's only live right now. But
okay. So
message me. You might be able to work something out if you can't make it.
Okay. I can make it. I'm asking for the internet. So internet, get on Kevin's email list. Find him on the interwebs. And we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.